welcome back. Tonight we are gonna rebuild my slipper clutch on my Summit. And as many of you know, I am new to this whole Summit thing, so I have asked Kev once again, not only to show me, but to show all of us how to rebuild the slipper clutch in the Traxxas Summit. Take it away, Kev.
So you're going to need a couple basic things, a couple of Allen keys, metric ones of course. You're going to need a piece of paper folded in half. This is 32 pitch gearing. And because of that, you do need to fold the paper in half, and this is just regular everyday printer paper. And of course you're going to need a wrench of some sort and a rebuild kit. And this is the 5352X kit. So it's not just for the Summit, it also works on a few other machines, as you'll see in the instructions that come with it. So there will be parts in here we actually don't even require for the Summit. So let's dump all of our stuff out here.
And this is one step closer to me getting my Summit up and running.
Now, we got this thing used, as you guys know, and being that there are always some unknowns, and whether this thing needs a rebuild or not, it's going to get it, just because when you're putting money into your machine, especially with what we've been putting into this thing so far, you want to make darn sure no matter what you've got a good slipper clutch so you're good for a long time, and you can still keep the other parts if they're still good and use them as emergency backup. Okay, which is also not a bad thing to have emergency spares. I keep a collection of spares kicking around because I've already destroyed one slipper clutch plate even on my Summit. Now, how you set the slipper clutch up too is going to depend on the kind of bashing that you're going to be doing with your machine. And mostly what we're going to be doing with this thing, well, she will be doing, is going to be a lot of crawling. So realistically, you should lock the slipper fairly tight, you know. I don't personally like any kind of slippage whatsoever on my Summit, even for bashing wise, so I lock mine for all purposes. So, but anyways, first we're going to take the nut off here, get that out of the way. Now, you don't actually, well, actually, yeah, you do. You have to pull the motor. So, let's get the motor out of the way. Now, as things get looser, you're going to have to grab and pinch the plate at the very back to stop things from moving around on you. Now, we do get a new spring, and we get a new nut. So you want to check the spring out to make sure the spring is the proper size, and they are. So, spring, hold nut, new spring, new nut, go over there. This one is going to be a little fussy. Shouldn't have had to, yeah, we're going to actually have to pull the plate from the bottom too. I don't remember doing that on mine, but okay. So we're going to have to loosen off the tranny. What I'm doing here is I'm pulling the center driveline plate out of the way. And there's a bunch of screws for this. And make sure you use perfect fitting Allen keys for your screws, because otherwise you're going to strip the hexes. You do that, and you're technically screwed at that point, unless you have an extractor kit and replacement screws. The screw I'm taking out now, it actually holds your steering unit down in place. I'm going to try and do this without having to pull the entire front skid plate assembly out. So if you're sneaky, sometimes you can get away with this. Kind of like that. Alright. Now we've got 4 screws in here, so while you're in here, check out your drive line, make sure everything's still okay with it, look for wear and tear on your lobes, and everything seems to look okay here. So it looks like drive line's going to be good to go for the summer. This one. I keep my transmission screws separate. So there's a slight bit difference in length. Now we're not taking the entire transmission out, we just need to create enough slop to get at stuff. Okay. See if that was enough slack or not. You shouldn't have to pull this whole damn thing apart just to get at that. There we go. Just enough. Only a little bit room, but we needed it. Now let's inspect this one. Back piece is good. Front piece is scored up really bad. Okay, now we could flip this and use the other side. I don't want it. I want to put a whole brand new one in here. I want it all clean, so we christen it ourselves. And looking at the pads, there's still lots of life left on these pads too. So that's a good sign. Now whether or not we can get these pads off of here one piece, there's a big question. So, let's grab a knife here. See if we can get under the pad. Oh, there's one. Well, they've been there for a while.
And just in case you didn't get to see it there, guys, that's the scorage on the present slipper plate. It's pretty good there.
Now, a question some people might have is, can I flip the pads over? Yes, you can flip the pads and use the other side. So that's definitely possible to do. But these are going to be emergency spares, so we want to leave them alone. Take our new pads, and then just line them up on the holes, pop them in. And there you go. All those pads are on there. Good as new. Now, the other thing they give you too is a new cross pin, okay, which locks the plate here. So we're going to change it. That one's getting a little rusty, but it's still good and strong. It'll probably still last for like forever, a long time. But brand new parts, you know exactly what you got sitting in your vehicle. That's the key thing here. We got to know what's in it, so that when something goes wrong, we got a pretty damn good idea what happened. Okay, so brand new disc. Now the disc lines up on little notches here. Okay, so you got to make sure that these notches here line up to the pin marks on the plate, like so. That goes on just like that. Then we have to get this back in and make sure that plate doesn't fall down on us. And then we want the new spring and washer, or new spring and nut, sorry. Goes in like that. Now this is a point where now you're reassembling. There's a hole in the very back shaft here, the back of the tranny. And what you're going to want is an Allen key that can go into this back hole to lock it in place so that you can start tightening up this nut and not spin everything. And you got to hold pressure back, because remember, you don't want that plate to fall out of its little holders. Okay. Okay, so now we're just going to tighten this down until the spring is completely compressed, so there's no gaps between the spring rings. That's pretty much about it there. So you have a little bit of the threads here protruding, you know, probably rough estimate around 1/8 of an inch actually. Now that we've got this all the way snugged up, we're going to back it off but just a little bit. About a 1/4 turn, and that's all you got to do. Okay? That's all good now. Now, well, this is all together. Yeah, the bearings seem to still be pretty good there, so we're all right. Okay, so flip her back over and back to the transmission screws. Now I put these screws in until they stop on their own, and I give them just a little bit of extra snugness. You don't need to reef on this stuff, because you're screwing into plastic for one, which is not a big deal. It's really good strong threads into the plastic, but if you over tighten these things, they can get jammed up in there, believe it or not, and you know, too tight, and the day that you do need to pull them again, you might end up buggering up a tool or buggering up the hex, because although Traxxas does a nice job of putting stuff together, they actually put really crappy screws that rust fast. Okay, so you might want to protect your screws even on a brand new truck, or buy a stainless steel screw kit if you want. It's up to you. But you can protect these easy enough with a couple dabs of grease, you know, on them, and you'll be fine. It'll protect the heads. Another thing you can use is I love a chemical called Never Seize, or Anti-Seize, which is this goop here. You can just put a couple, you know, dab on each one of them, just to, you know, kind of put some into the holes of the Allen heads, and that'll keep crap out of there, plus it'll prevent rusting from happening. But because I know we're going to be taking this thing apart, you know, within the next few months to, you know, check on things, keep things, you know, active and finding out what's going on, I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, so we're going to bypass that step altogether at this point. So we got a bunch of crap here. We're going to go clean this. So I'm going to get my wife to shut off the camera for a minute. We'll be right back after this is all cleaned up inside, because that's disgusting. Okay guys, now that's sparkling clean. She did a good job on that. Okay, so time to slam her back in. Boom. Gotta get the right driver for this one. Now these skid plate screws, you definitely have to watch how snug you make them, because these holes will strip easier than others. So just put them till they stop and just snug them up, you know. Like I said, don't have to reef. Now this screw here for the steering, you're going to take this one all the way down until it stops. Now we got misaligned here somehow. This is kind of where I wish I had these screwdriver bits onto a drill and just go zzz. There we go.
Yeah, not pushing up now.
That's good. And just keep going. And it will stop on its own. And just give her a snug up. That's all you need to do. That's good and solid. Alright, back to our wonderful pile of screws. Go back into here. I'm just going to start them out first. Pretty easy, straightforward job to do this. Again, till they stop, and a bit of snug. Pieces that we did not need from the kit were these two washers and the larger nut. Those you don't need on the Summit. You will need them on other machines. And don't worry about these instructions either, as far as the machines they list on the instructions themselves, because they say slipper clutch rebuild, electric vehicle assembly. Now, it doesn't say Summit on here. Okay? It gives you a part number. The part number will match what's in your book for your Summit. And of course, you've got this one here, covers part number 5352X and 5252R. Okay? This is the heavy duty slipper kit. Okay? The one with the R is the regular normal duty. But you'll notice it doesn't say anything as far as Summit or this or that type of thing. Don't worry about that. Okay, you've seen it yourself, and you can match these numbers up on any website, and it will tell you it is for the Summit, and it will probably tell you it's for other vehicles as well. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Some people, when they search for parts or whatever, it kind of drives them a little buggy. What? We're gonna order in a spur, because it looks like this one's got a slight warp in it. Now we'll have to see how bad the warp is once we get the motor back in and set the mesh, because that may or may not be an issue. We'll have to see. And at least those things are like $3. They're like nothing. They're cheap. Okay, so that's set to go. Paper, pull back, feed it in there. Make sure that the teeth start to bind in there a bit. So now you know that the paper is meshed with the gears. And then we're going to take our Allen key. Now you're not squishing hard on this. You're just, you know, holding it firmly in place, but not too hard. But you do want to tighten this nut or screw good and snug. And there's the kind of crush points we have. So now we feel that. That feels really smooth.
Show that paper again. Oh.
Sorry.
There we go. Good. That's the kind of
like an accordion.
That's the kind of crimp you need.
Okay, so you don't want it excessively tight in there. And then when you roll it back in your fingers, you'll feel there's a certain amount of resistance, obviously, because of the motor, but you're not feeling any kind of binding going on here at all. Now, in rolling this back and forth here, I'm definitely seeing it's staying within the lines of the pinion widths, but I still think we're going to replace that because a warp spur, I mean, it's going to act a little funny, and it's going to cause a bit of a more excessive power drain than normal. So you want it running a lot more truer and smoother. So we are going to replace this spur either way. But I mean, we could run it the way it is and it won't technically hurt anything, but it's still something to look at, and that's a little too much wobble even for my taste. So this truck has been under some serious load to actually start twisting that. So anyways, we're done, other than well, putting this cover back on here, which is pretty basic. And you can't always rely on these drivers, by the way, for all your RC maintenance, because there are a lot of areas they will not get into, and this is one of them in here. So you're going to need regular Allen keys too. You're going to have to use from time to time. So anyways, that's it. That's all for my part. There you go.
Thanks very much, Kev, because yeah, it's really handy if you have never done something before to have someone show you how to do it. And since I haven't seen this done before, this was a learning thing for me. I hope you guys have learned a little bit as well. And thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Bye for now.